Researcher discusses China's most pressing issue now. Epidemic escalates, CCP generals and celebrities die in succession. Can the housing market no longer hold? Beijing relaxes home buying conditions for divorcees. Analysts, China's property market drag dissuades foreign investors. Chinese companies utilize Mexico as a backdoor to enter the US. It's all covered in today's China Truths. Researcher discusses China's most pressing issue now. Amid China's faltering economy and political instability, significant historical milestones are aligning, including the 30th anniversary of Hu Yaobang's death, the 35th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square protests, and the 25th anniversary of the Falun Gong petitioning. Internationally, experts and scholars frequently discuss and analyze the CCP's trajectory and China's future. Wu Guoguang, a senior researcher at Stanford University's Center for China's Economy and Institutional Research in the USA, has pointed out a unique current phenomenon in China that could potentially lead to a breakthrough. In an exclusive interview with Radio Free Asia on April 22, Wu noted widespread dissatisfaction among the Chinese populace, with many advocating for democratic thinkers to spearhead political reform. He has also observed considerable discontent within the system itself. An article by Xi Jinping in the CCP's official Qiushi magazine in March highlighted an internal crisis within the regime. Xi clarified that his policy of strict governance of the party should not suffocate initiative or stagnate administration. Wang Jisheng, Secretary General of the Taiwan-China Asia-Pacific Elite Exchange Association, told Voice of America that local Chinese officials tend to do less to avoid mistakes, which has led to a culture of lying flat, something Xi himself has acknowledged, suggesting his awareness of the crisis. Signals suggest a growing dissent against Xi Jinping, even among the second-generation Reds who initially supported his ascent. US-based political scholar Wang Juntai told Epoch Times that Xi's stringent measures against influential departments have temporarily subdued these figures, though they remain unconvinced by his leadership. At a recent seminar in New York commemorating Hu Yaobang and the Tiananmen Square protests, Wu Guoguang emphasized the need for China's elite class to recognize their own interests and take action. He believes that the elite should unite with the people to impose constraints on the supreme ruler. Wu also expressed to Radio Free Asia his view that democratic progress doesn't necessarily require democratic intentions, self-interest or political ambition alone might suffice to shift the political system. Thus, during the seminar, he encouraged China's elites to collaborate with the broader population, not to establish a democracy per se, but to initiate democratic change. Wu also suggested that revolutions often start in areas beyond the regime's control. He elaborated that governmental financial constraints and gaps in the stability maintenance framework could lead to vulnerabilities, citing Li Zicheng, a fringe figure during the Ming dynasty, as an example. Li was marginalized when the dynasty could no longer afford his services, paralleling today's auxiliary police who, stripped of minimal benefits, might feel compelled to rebel. Wu concluded that predicting social unrest in such a vast country with deep-seated contradictions is nearly impossible. Despite the regime's efforts since 1989 to anticipate and block potential disruptions, unexpected challenges invariably emerge. Wu concluded by saying that they won't specify their methods in detail or suggest potential trouble spots. However, he emphasized that the actual areas of crisis are likely to be those no one has yet considered. Epidemic escalates, CCP generals and celebrities die in succession. Amid the new coronavirus is severe in mainland China, publicly available reports reveal that the CCP's senior military leadership has experienced a significant number of deaths due to illness. Notably, among the CCP's senior military leadership, Xing Jiagai, the deputy commander of the People's Armed Police Forces and a major general, who just passed away at 63 on April 19, due to unsuccessful medical treatment, though they did not specify the cause of death. Over the past year, at least 40 senior military officials from the CCP have died, all of whom were CCP members. From March 30 to April 19, 2024, several other high-ranking officers including Ma Jianmin, Lieutenant General in the People's Liberation Army Air Force, and Li Shilin, the former commander of the Guangzhou military region, with the rank of general, also passed away. Epoch Times reported that between December 2023 and mid-March 2024, at least 15 senior CCP military leaders died, including Wei Jingshan, former political commissar of the Navy. Between July and November 2023, at least 26 CCP generals and higher-ranking officers died, among them including 2 CCP generals, Yu Jinwu, who served as a former Air Force commander, and Wen Ji, former director of the General Staff Artillery Department. Likewise, leading figures in education and the arts, known for their support of the CCP, have been dying in succession. The first case is Wu Jigang, president of the Pingxiang City CI-Fu Society and member of the Shangli County Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, who died on the morning of April 9 this year, at the age of 56, after a long illness. He was a renowned expert in CI-Fu, a form of Chinese poetry, and dedicated his career to writing CI-Fu on the theme of CCP red culture, especially his series of CI-Fu dedicated to CCP leader Mao Zedong, as well as praising the CCP's reform and opening up and the CCP's centennial anniversary. The next person, Ma Changli, a renowned Chinese art educator and oil painter, passed away on April 7. He was known for his numerous red works, including Autumn Harvest Uprising and Marching on the Taihang Mountains. Next is Jean Tao, a renowned Chinese popular science writer and science fiction novelist, who passed away on March 4 due to a sudden illness. He used to be a director of the Guangming Daily's reporter department, a CCP mouthpiece. Since a new wave of the COVID-19 virus began in December 2022 in mainland China, numerous CCP members, officials, and supportive experts, scholars, and celebrities have died massively. And naturally, this type of news is never reported by the Chinese Communist Party's propaganda outlets. The regime has always hidden the true situation. Commentator Zhong Yuan from the Epoch Times believes that the Chinese Communist Party is on a rapid decline, and its eventual collapse is certain. He points out that the CCP, a brutal dictatorship killing countless people since its rise to power in mainland China in 1949, will inevitably drag its members, supporters, and blind followers down with it. According to him, this ongoing political decay is the real reason the pandemic persists in China. In light of these harsh truths, he calls on China's kind-hearted citizens to become aware, stay away from the CCP, withdraw from the CCP, cease defending the regime, and relinquish any illusions they might hold. Can the housing market no longer hold? Beijing relaxes home buying conditions for divorcees. Beijing has recently updated its housing policy to allow individuals divorced for less than a year who do not own a complete home in the city to qualify for first home buyer credit terms. The new rules, detailed online on April 22 and implemented by several major financial and housing authorities in Beijing, apply to any property purchase contracts signed from April 23 onwards. This change contrasts sharply with a previous policy from August 2021, which barred divorced individuals from buying residential properties for 3 years if they didn't meet certain home ownership criteria. Furthermore, real estate market data show that Beijing's high-end residential sector is struggling, with significant sales declines and a slow rollout of new properties, echoing a broader trend of falling home prices noted by the National Bureau of Statistics. Therefore, the policy has sparked a strong reaction online, with critics arguing that it promotes divorce as a means to energize the real estate market and exploits financial vulnerabilities. Users express concerns over the ethical implications of encouraging debt and the effectiveness of such measures in a declining market. Another netizen argued that the CCP's encouragement of buying homes is a ploy to exploit the populace. A home mortgages the wealth of 3 generations with decades-long loans. When prices crash, it completes the near-total extraction of the people's wealth. Analysts, China's property market drag dissuades foreign investors. Despite recent encouraging GDP figures stirring interest in China's market, global investors hold that the property market's troubles are of greater importance to China's economy. These ongoing issues in the real estate sector not only amplify the economy's susceptibility to external shocks but also affect household consumption, which is crucial for boosting Chinese inflation. Jefferies Group, a New York-based multinational investment bank, highlighted in an April 21 report that while domestic investors focus on the Producer Price Index, PPI, as a critical economic indicator, global investors view the property market's health as more vital due to its significant correlation with household consumption, a key driver of inflation recovery in China. The firm also expressed that if the feared property sector defaults were to occur, it could break China's back. Smaller financial institutions are already at risk due to potential events in 2024. Jefferies said that larger national financial institutions may also experience adverse effects if major property companies default. The debt crisis gripping China's troubled property sector remains a significant obstacle to the country's economic growth and has cast a shadow on the future of major real estate developers like Evergrande Group and Country Garden. In March, China's property crisis worsened as Vanke, another major developer with state links, was hit by a confidence crisis after ratings agency Moody's downgraded the company and estimated a 40% decline in sales for January and February compared to the previous year. According to Jefferies, from the global investor's perspective, Vanke is a key story to watch in the near term. Like Evergrande and Country Garden, both in danger of liquidation due to debt default, Beijing is attempting to save China Vanke from the same fate as the country's failing real estate industry. If Vanke defaulted on public debt, concerns would undoubtedly escalate, even regarding the most reputable state-owned enterprise developers. According to Jefferies, this could also lead to increased risks in the financial system, particularly in terms of exposure to the property market and the industry chain. Adding to the challenges, the first quarter of 2024 saw a dramatic 49% year-on-year sales decline among the top 100 developers, with property sales in 30 cities dropping to just 39.4% of the levels seen in the same period in 2021. Yet, after a shaky start, China's economy surpassed expectations, with official data released on April 16 revealing that the economy grew 5.3% year-on-year from January to March. Similarly, the March 2024 PPI recorded a year-on-year decrease of 2.8%, which was narrower than the previous month's decline. This indicated a potential stabilization of product prices at the factory gate. For domestic investors, the decrease in PPI suggests lower costs for products leaving factories, which could lead to improved profit margins for companies able to maintain or increase their sales prices. During the initial weeks of the year, there were doubts about achieving such significant growth, investors were withdrawing, and officials had to intervene in equity markets to prevent further decline. Given this context, the fact that the expansion exceeded analysts' forecasts of 4.8% indicates a strong outcome. China faces plenty of concerns. Moody's, in a recent commentary, expressed concerns about the Chinese economy despite improved GDP figures this year, stating that there's a growing divide in China's economy, manufacturers are doing the heavy lifting, while households sit on the sidelines. The global ratings agency highlighted a widening gap where the manufacturing sector is excelling, primarily driven by the new three industries: electric vehicles, solar panels, and batteries. These sectors have benefited from significant governmental investment, boosting production and exports, especially in electric vehicles, even as global demand generally declines. However, this focus on manufacturing poses risks, notably the potential for overcapacity which could saturate global markets and negatively affect Western industries. This concern is shared by entities in the United States and the European Union, with U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen indicating that the U.S. may impose tariffs to counteract these effects. Conversely, consumer behavior in China shows a slowdown, with retail sales growth tapering over the last 6 months as households cut back on non-essential spending. This reduction was stark in March, with growth slowing to 3.1% year-on-year, a drop from the 5.5% growth observed in January and February. Additionally, service spending has decreased as initial pent-up demand has been met. Moody's emphasized the critical role of Chinese households in sustaining economic stability, stating that without their engagement, the economy remains susceptible to external shocks. Chinese companies utilize Mexico as a backdoor to enter the U.S. Amid the ongoing trade war with the U.S., Many Chinese firms have moved to industrial parks in northern Mexico over the past few years to get closer to the American market. Manhua Furniture in Monterrey, producing recliners and plush leather sofas that are fully labeled as made in Mexico, is one of these companies. This relocation not only reduces shipping costs but also ensures their products are treated as Mexican-made, thus skirting U.S. tariffs and sanctions on Chinese imports. Yu Ken Wei, the company's general manager, told the BBC that relocating to Mexico was a strategic move for both economic and logistical reasons. Yu said, "We are planning to triple or even quadruple our production capacity here." The company started operations in Monterrey in 2022 and has hired 450 workers in Mexico. They intend to expand their workforce to over 1,200 in the next few years and to initiate multiple new production lines at the plant. Clearly, nearshoring has been a boon for Mexico's economy. By adopting nearshoring, the Chinese companies distribute their products to major American retailers, including Costco and Walmart. As of last June, Mexico's export totals had increased by 5.8% year-over-year to $52.9 billion. This trend shows little sign of abating. Within just the first 2 months of this year, Mexico's capital investment nearly reached half of its total for all of 2020. Yet, there are calls for caution with respect to Chinese investments due to the potential for Mexico to be drawn into the wider geopolitical tensions between the U.S. and China. Enrique Dussel of the Mexico-China Studies Center at the National Autonomous University of Mexico warned the BBC that irrespective of whether Donald Trump or Joe Biden is in the White House, few anticipate any improvement in U.S.-China relations over the next 4 years. Mexico must exercise caution to avoid becoming embroiled in U.S.-China geopolitical conflict. As previously, last week, informed Mexican officials revealed to Reuters that under U.S. pressure, Mexico is distancing itself from Chinese car manufacturers by not offering incentives for electric vehicle production, such as low-cost land or tax breaks. Companies like BYD and SAIC Motor are reportedly using Mexico as a loophole to sell inexpensive electric vehicles in the U.S., thus avoiding tariffs of up to 27.5%. A U.S. trade representative clarified that the USMCA, United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, or new NAFTA, was not designed to allow China tariff-free market access. Peter Sand, chief analyst at Zenita, suggested to Reuters that the substantial amount of goods shipped to Mexico and possibly trucked to the U.S. might indicate that this trade increase results from attempts to dodge U.S. tariffs. Meanwhile, Dussel advised that Mexico should be wary of becoming a pawn in the U.S.-China geopolitical struggle, especially as Washington places a high priority on national security. With the USMCA set for renegotiation in 2026, Mexican officials are cautious about angering the U.S., fearing significant amendments to the agreement that could negatively impact Mexico. Political pressure is also mounting, with former President Trump threatening a 100% tariff on cars made in Mexican factories by Chinese companies if re-elected, and the Biden administration pushing Mexico to prevent China from indirectly exporting metal products to the U.S. Don't forget to leave a comment in the section below to share your opinions on today's topic with us. Make sure to like and subscribe to see more interesting topics from China Truths.